Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Aniegolu. Now, it was supposed to be a broad and impressive opposition coalition, an alliance bringing together many well-known parties and politicians who have electoral support within and outside traditional opposition strongholds. But far from becoming a successful opposition union or association, divisions have torn them apart, so much so that collectively and individually, all the main opposition parties seem to be crumbling and falling flat, and the shimmering optimism with which they were initially greeted now appears to be losing its shine. Everywhere you look, the biggest hopes, the PDP and Labour, seem on the verge of fragmentation, if not imminent collapse, polarised from within, undermined from without. The situation is dire, with analysts warning that Nigeria's democracy is at risk, even as the future of this country's opposition parties hangs in the balance. So is the ADC, which is itself facing internal conflicts and challenges that could well bring it to its knees, now the last man standing in Nigeria's opposition ranks. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the National Publicity Secretary of the African Democratic Congress, or ADC, Bolaji Abdullahi. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Charles.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Always a pleasure.
I wonder what you make of what is happening in the PDP at the moment and the divisions that have rent the party asunder.
Well, I mean, what happened yesterday or so just appears to be a terminal stage in a drama that had played out, sordid drama, we must say, that had played out in the last couple of months. It was clear from the time that this government had come on board, 2023, that there appeared to be a design to bring PDP to its knees. And we've seen all kinds of maneuverings happening. At a point you would think they will get over it and something will happen. But it has become obvious that yesterday appeared to be the final straw that broke the camel's back. But what we found quite, what we are as a party dismayed about is that you could see the hands of government at every single point of the PDP's crisis. You could see the insidious hands of government agents stoking it, as if government had a deliberate plan to ensure that the party does not survive.
And what questions are you, as part of the opposition in the ADC, asking yourselves as you observe the crisis in the PDP? I mean, the obvious one must be how the ADC can ensure that it doesn't fall into the same internal conflicts that have dramatically weakened the PDP, especially with multiple high-profile leaders in your party, like Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, El Rufai, David Mark, all of them involved in the party, leaders who are yoked down by the weight of competition amongst themselves, and who in the past, at least Atiku and Peter Obi, have fallen out, with each other politically.
Well, I mean, but that's I'll come to that. What I would like us to remember is that the ADC itself is a product of the destabilization of all the opposition political parties. People try to sometimes draw a parallel between the ADC coalition and what happened in 2014-15, the coming on board of the African of this ruling party now, APC. But I say they are different because in 2014-2015, what you saw was a product of political strategy. But what has brought about the ADC now is a product of political necessity, occasioned by government's government's intention to destabilize all political.
So basically, you're on the defensive
to ensure that no political parties exist after the ruling party.
But so that sounds like you're on the defensive rather than being on the offensive.
We're on the defensive, and that was why people moved out of PDP. It's the people that moved out of
but
the
it'll be
PDP
difficult
seeing
for you
clearly.
to win if you're on the defensive.
No, no, no.
I mean, you're defending your territory.
No, let me
You know what I mean? You have to move into the other territory.
If you allow me to make my point, I was saying that it was the conflict or the destabilization within the PDP that had pushed out people like Atiku Abubakar and the rest of them. It was the instability within the Labour Party.
Atiku contributed to the destabilization.
That's a different argument.
But that's an important argument to keep in mind.
You could make that argument, but that's a different argument. The argument I try to make is that ADC itself, the ADC coalition, is a consequence of the instability in all those political parties. And that's what necessitated the ADC. Now we are in ADC. You are talking about, I mean, as a prognosis, so when we get there are big weights, they will fight. I think the most important thing we need to focus on is that, what kind of party are we trying to build? And we have said it repeatedly, that we are not doing this just to take power in 2027. Look, before I came here, I listened to the conversation you are having with the general about insecurity in Nigeria. Look, regardless of how you want to interpret everything that's happening in this country, one thing that is very clear is that we are in this mess today because of the kind of politics we have played.
Indeed.
And if we are going to get out of this mess, it will depend on the kind of politics we choose to play going forward.
Indeed.
And that is why ADC is saying, we're not just here because we want political power. It's an opportunity for us now to reset politics in Nigeria, because politics and democracy is, as a matter of fact, becoming meaningless to Nigerians.
However, if you are going to reset this country's not only politics but trajectory, you have to be able to take power in 2027.
Absolutely.
That's the only way you're going to do it.
Absolutely.
Now, the APC was, of course, able to win in 2015 because the party was significantly strengthened by mass defections from the ruling PDP.
Yes.
This time, the aisle crossing is the other way round, with the opposition bolstering the ranks of the APC and dramatically improving the ruling party's electoral fortunes by those defections. So people are not defecting to the ADC, your party, as they did with the opposition APC in 2015. What does that tell you about the ADC's current popularity level?
No, you see, it's not about popularity level. It's about the kind of system that this government has run. You can say we are defensive. Yeah, maybe we are at the moment. But what I'm saying is that in the last 4 months or so that we have come on board, we've seen the remarkable progress we've made. Within the 4 months that we've come on board, we have offices. They say we had no structure. But as I speak to you, we had offices in 27 of 36 states without a single political elected official. Without a single elected official. Those offices were put in place by members who are committed to building a real political party. We are not bothered. That's why we're not so bothered with governors. They can have the governors. APC can have the governors. But we have the people with us. We've seen governors after 8 years who have gone back to lose senatorial election in the same states that they have governed. So we're not so bothered about. You see, what we are more concerned about, and this is fundamental, is whether this government believes in democracy, whether the institutions of democracy in this place will actually give option for a free and fair and democratic election. If we are able to guarantee that institutions will allow a free and fair democratic election, we are not worried. What we are worried about is that those institutions will not. And I'll give you one example. One of the arbiters, a critical component of electoral process in this country, unfortunately so, is the judiciary. Is that not so? Only this week, we saw the president appearing at the annual meeting of the judicial officers of judges, and what happened? They're all singing, "On your mandate we shall stand."
Yeah, I have to say unreservedly that is an absolute shame.
It is a shame.
It is a shame on the judiciary of this country. And I say that without equivocation whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Absolute shame.
I mean, so when the umpire, as you may want to call them, who should be unbiased, are now the ones wearing the shirt of one of the players and singing on your mind.
Well, what we're hearing, I've just been told in my ear that the judges themselves were not singing.
It doesn't matter.
But that some other people were singing at their events. If that is the case, then perhaps that is excusable.
It doesn't matter. So what matters is that, look, I read an ICPC report, and I'm not picking on the judiciary. I read an ICPC report about 2 years ago that said public perception says the judiciary is the most corrupt institution in Nigeria. That is public perception. ICPC report. That is number one. Number two, democracy is grounded on the principle of checks and balances. When the executive is abusing or outreaching itself, you expect the National Assembly to say, come on, you can do that. But we've seen the National Assembly join the chorus upon your mandate, we shall stand.
The National Assembly certainly does that.
And they say whatever.
Yeah, but you could, I mean, it's not excusable because they're supposed to represent the people of Nigeria, not a section of the people. Yes. However, they are from political parties,
no doubt
so you could
that.
Make that argument.
Yeah.
The judiciary is supposed to be completely independent. Yes. But, I mean, part of what you're saying, a lot of which makes sense in terms of preserving this country's democracy, because if you don't have democracy, then there's no point, is there? But obviously, coalition building is key to strengthening the ADC and its chances of scoring a knockout blow in 2027 and even beyond. I mean, because if you don't have that, I mean, we've seen in this country it'll be very difficult to dislodge the incumbent government. What are you doing with coalition building at the moment, and how are you navigating relationships with other opposition parties?
Well, I mean, thank you very much. We are watching closely what is happening in the PDP. What we're certain about is that eventually, what you will have is a two-horse race between the PDP and within the APC and the ADC. PDP is split right down the middle, so you are likely to have a faction of them going into the ruling APC, and you will find a faction of them who will realize that the only option they have is to join the ADC. We will welcome them, but of course, like I said, the most important thing is that they also have to understand that it's not going to be business as usual. We want to win, but we don't want to win at all costs. If what we just want to do is to continue what this government is doing, then there's no point to it. Because at the end of the day, politics has to have a meaning. It has to serve a purpose. As a political class, we feel collectively discredited. And we are saying it's an opportunity for us for redemption. Look at the turnout rate, percentage of voter turnout in the last few elections. Nigerians are giving up on politics. They are giving up that anything good can come out of politicians.
Well, let me pick you up on that, because the really big elephant in the room in this country is national unity amid regional and ethnic tensions. Absolutely. The likes of the civil rights lawyer and former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Dr. Olisa Abakoba, are pretty convinced that if the foundational reforms of this country by way of devolution or restructuring aren't properly and fully implemented, that Nigeria is at risk of, at best, continuing underdevelopment and the trajectory that you're bemoaning, and at worst, breaking apart. And if it does restructure, it'll signal a pivotal turning point for the better in this country's history. What sort of ideological convergence is there in the ADC about this issue of devolution or restructuring?
You see, thank you very much. You see, for us in the ADC, the most important conversation we've been having is how to make government work for the people. And what is clear is that at this time, as we speak, the current structure that we have does not support the kind of challenge that we face. Now, is geographical restructuring, is that what we need to make this country function better? Is it restructuring of the governance system what we need to make the country better? So what we are convinced about is that the system as it is no longer serving the purpose that it should serve.
But you haven't figured out what the solution is.
ADC is saying that we are going to leave all options on the table. And before election, we are going to project our position.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you if this is an issue that the ADC thinks needs to be in the 2027 election campaign.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if anybody says, I'm going to solve the problem of insurgency in Nigeria without committing to addressing the fundamental structure that support it, then it is just another political talk. And that's why we are saying for every single promise we are going to make, we are going to support it with evidence of what we have attempted to see in the understanding.
Because I mean, the truth is that we haven't really heard anything at all about this so far from the ADC, or indeed any of the other political parties. And one would have thought that at the very least, you'd be talking about it as the way to permanently solve Nigeria's political, social, and economic problems.
You know why it's difficult? You know why it's difficult?
Why is that?
In 2014, 2015, APC came with a promise of change. We were part of that. And Nigerians truly believed that Nigeria, the country, was on the cusp of a major change. 10 years after, this is where we are. And the failure of the APC to keep the promise of change that they made turned the psyche of Nigerians, and majority of Nigerians became cynical. So when we come forward now and begin to say, okay, we are different, people look at us and say, these are the same people, right? So the failure of APC had made the job of opposition a lot more difficult. Don't forget what this APC did when things happening now happened under President Jonathan. Kebbi is their own Chibok girls. The situation that confront us today is even infinitely more complex than what they lampooned and harassed and abused President Jonathan for. But Nigerians believed that they had a solution. And they had this beautiful document circulating. I was writing the document, right? But the first thing that happened when the government came on board, they disowned everything we did. Now, what I'm saying is that we are very clear about what we want to do. We're not going to, because telling Nigerians, oh, we will do this. Nigerians are tired of hearing we will do this. They want to see what you will do.
Yeah, but you still have to tell them what you intend to do in order for them to give you the opportunity to do it.
We're going to do that. It's a catch-22 situation.
It is indeed.
But what I can assure you is that ADC is going to be very clear and deliberate where we stand on every single issue of governance, economy, and insecurity.
Right. We're fast running out of time, so we're going to wait to hear from you about this. But I wonder how you respond to allegations that the ADC itself is increasingly divided, with some members questioning the leadership's commitment to internal democracy and, in fact, disowning the leadership led by Senator David Mark. I mean, what does that say about the ADC's internal dynamic? Well, I mean, we've seen people...
Can you tell me who these leaders are?
Some of these people are some of the people who were in the original ADC before it was taken over by you.
We've moved beyond that. We've moved beyond that. And like we said, we're not going to continue to detain ourselves.
But this is what the PDP was saying a couple of years ago. Look at where they are now.
It's not the same. It's not the same. You see, all these people that you are referring to, we know where they are coming from. At a point, it became lucrative to continue to challenge the ADC leadership and the process in which we came on board. So it became lucrative. And it's the same hands, in the same dark hands, that have destabilized all the other political parties that are instigating all these people. We know them, these people that are saying going to court and all that, they cannot afford to hire a lawyer. Who is paying for them? So all this is the same thing. But the most important point that I would like to make here is that the APC government have to realize that you can only have a democracy if you have political parties. If they create a condition that make it impossible for any other political parties to survive apart from their party, then we can't claim to have a democracy. And that is not good for Nigeria.
Indeed. And I mean, just one more thing before we let you go, because we're running out of time. I mean, we saw in the last election how youth engagement is an absolutely key element. Because, I mean, they're the biggest demographic.
Yeah,
I
sure,
mean,
yeah.
I don't see them talking excitedly about the ADC or joining the party the way they did with Labour, for instance, in 2023. I mean, how's the ADC connecting with younger Nigerians?
You see, we recognize like I said earlier, I've alluded to it, the kind of hypnotic effect that the promise of change had on young people in 2014, 2015, it was unprecedented in the history of Nigeria. 10 years, 12 years down the line, they didn't see that promise fulfilled. Many of them who could vote with their feet had done the japa and left. Those who stayed back, they thought they could wind something back with NSAS protest, but they saw the way government reacted. And after that, young people had lost faith completely. We are trying to convince them, telling them that the task of nation building is never done. When you sign out and you lose interest, people who are worse than you, people who are not as good as you, will take the system and they will ruin the country. So we're trying to encourage them. We are opening the space. 40% of our position in the National Working Committee is reserved for young people. We also understand that our task is that of creating a successor generation of young people who can carry on from wherever we stop. But it's a challenge for us. Our task is a lot more difficult because people have become a lot more cynical.
Okay. On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. Bolaji Abdullahi is the National Publicity Secretary of the African Democratic Congress, or ADC. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.